Yeah, I saw a rainbow in it.
I did see that.
That's why I yeah, that's what it's called. It's like a rainbow.
Rainbow bagel.
It's like a rainbow. Oh my gosh.
How are you doing?
Good.
The fabric one?
Yeah.
I just think there's
Yeah, let me ask you.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Is it woven or is it fabric? No, it's like that tan.
Okay, yeah,
I like that one. It's like that. Yeah, that's what I think.
It's not fabric.
It's like
It's cold.
yeah, it's like a see, it kind of like floors. Yeah, I think it might be all the time. I feel like I had my house too. I know.
They're all different colors.
Right.
We've gone to home or at home, out in here.
Yeah, that's over there by KFC, right? But these were like, sorry, over there, nails are black, but our cabinets are white, and this is like, over here, this is for the new house. Hell no. It started out, we were like, oh, we're just gonna change the backsplash and do this. It was just basically like we renovated the whole house. I mean, we added a full 1.5 bathroom to the house, and then just different stuff in the kitchen that we moved. I mean, like, here we go. Are you gonna list your house? You know, that's great. My husband's like, why don't you just sell it and just take all the cash and you know, just go and so I'm like, I know. But then I'm like, well, if we move over there down to Roswell, then we can always shift back into our Waltham house. Like, are you really gonna be back? You know, I know. It's just keep it for a year. I know. Because that's the same thing we thought about if we moved over here to keep our rental property no matter what. I was like, whatever. I know I love it. I know. You know, the thing is, it's unusual. So you're moving down and you're not worried about spring break. You know, it was fun. We like renovated all the pieces. Right. So I restarted our house, you know. And my husband's like, let's just right. He's like, let us be done with this place. So he's like, really want to be back in the house, and you know, but the whole reason is because we live there for years. Right. But even then, he was like, do you have a lot of family? No, I'm like, I think for me, I think it's more like, oh my kids are involved, and it's like different, you know. I think I'm having a hard time letting go of the house than anybody else. Right. So I don't know. But I was looking at this picture, this like takes old pieces and paints them. Oh, beautiful. Is that what it is? No, it's I see Charles found somebody that runs it. Yeah, she. I don't know where she is, but she has this stuff.
Everyone's coming.
Like some of these things are some of the ones that she so I was looking at
Little,
That's kind of how I was.
I feel like my kids have beat up my furniture for the last, let's see, 21 years. And so I'm just like, Starfresh. Yeah, but they have so many pieces. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Where did you come from? I haven't really done much there. I saw him a couple times growing up, but I know it was pretty. There's that. It used to be college basketball.
yeah, but like, I told her yesterday,
Are we doing tour?
I'm just in South Georgia. I'm just in South Georgia.
So nice to have nice. Right, you're like, right.
It's like, oh, we need to go. It's not your business.
Okay, let's go. I was like, am I in trouble?
And it's kind of what I tell my friends. I'm going to visit London.
Oh, did you?
But we're not moving into yeah, so and your other son, your older son is on campus. The oldest is at Georgia State, and so he'll be up there. No film. The second one is doing PhD doing marching band. That's what I was thinking. And then my senior Walton's gonna go to PhD doing marching band. Yeah, he's the third. And then your younger one.
Coming up on 2
Yeah. Is your younger one in sixth grade? He's going into sixth grade. That's the reason why we would move this. Which makes sense because yeah, it's new school.
What are we doing? You just getting pictures. Where did that come from?
He's been there since first grade. Yeah, we do this summer camp there, and my son's that's how. I went there. We went there in between kindergarten.
Anytime there's a question, I'm here. I haven't helped out too much yet. I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Tell a story. Right? And the person will tell is about the probably a reading marathon. Anyway, I heard that someone in this room got somebody in contact yesterday. They got in contact, they immediately went and knocked on every door in the neighborhood. Who could that be, baby?
Are you talking about me?
Yeah. So tell us about when you're in contract.
No, that's awesome.
Thank you.
And tell us what you did once you got done the contract. Buyer or seller?
This is a listing of mine, and yeah, I just door knocked the neighborhood, which I probably honestly learned from Danielle.
Yeah, we all learned that today, yeah.
But I've door knocked for years, so yeah, it's just a quick door knocking around the neighborhood. I start with like, the 20 houses closest and just drop off a little flyer and knock, knock, knock. Hey, just wanna let you know your neighbor's house, you saw it was for sale, right? Well, we sold at list price $675. Great news for your value. If you have any questions, keep me posted.
What do you think about that message?
Love it.
And was it cold yesterday knocking on doors?
A little bit, but I went in the afternoon, so it really wasn't that bad. Had a jacket and I got a listing lead.
The guys said, look for this. Knocking on doors certainly is the way you do it, isn't it?
Yes.
But you had a reason to knock on doors, didn't you?
I mean, I can give you 4 reasons to knock on anybody's door right now.
Say that all later.
They all have to do with real estate.
Okay, just.
I'm not gonna sell them. Just door to door.
Yes, ma'am.
Open houses are another way.
Yeah.
We've got buyers this weekend. 2 sets of buyers that are active in this kind of agreement.
Awesome.
Sean Rawls, who is one of my heroes. 12 years ago, about 6 months, after coming through the team with his conference, he told me, he said, you put me down in the middle of any place, and I will do open house every single weekend, and I will make $100,000 first year. I was open houses. So there's no houses to be on, the other are. You have to find the other guy, but open house also. How many buyers do you think? Oh, maybe an open house. That's cool. All right, anything else y'all want to share this good news today?
You have a new agent.
I do.
Right.
All right.
Yay.
So, Tina was referred to us by Taylor.
Oh, yay.
She did a deal with Taylor, and Taylor was like, you have to talk to Rob. And
That's what she said was you didn't talk to Jim, he's not available to talk to Rob. That's not true. That is not. Yeah.
the beauty about Tina is Tina works right now for Deloitte as a contractor, and she's been in the business for about how long? 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
But she's with a very small brokerage that's based out of Boston, Massachusetts. They have a brokerage down here. Despite having zero training on anything, and by the grace of God, she got through her first 4 deals, not knowing anything, right? Just being a smart, independent woman and learning how to do things. And she's coming here, and we're going to lean into her. And she doesn't want to work for Deloitte any longer, and she wants to change the trajectory for her family and everything. So we had a great conversation yesterday with me and Rusty, and I'm so thrilled that she's here.
All right.
Tell us about yourself. It looks like Rob. Rob has not learned yet how to ask questions. Anything to add to that, team at all?
No, I'm just excited to be on, get all the training. Agents that, friends of mine that are agents out of state. I started with Keller Williams, and everybody all said the same thing, that you guys have the best training. So I just want to be part of the best.
And we want to be part of that. But let's welcome Tina, guys. Anything else? Anybody else that's here for the first time we need to introduce? I want to introduce anybody. All right, Sherry, you have something to share with us, don't you?
Yes. And Rob.
And Rob, that's right, Chuck.
Nobody will let you eat today, will they? We can't see it in the no.
So
You can
yes-
speak because my mouth is full.
Okay, I'll start and then you can chime in. So yesterday in our staff meeting, we were having a conversation and Rob had shared what the active listing stats were in Walton and Pope. And it was like, does anybody even know how many active listings are right now in Walton?
Very small. I know.
Like,
13. It's like 35, I think.
Yeah,
I know.
So under 750, there's like 19.
it's like crazy level right now. And so that then led to the conversation, and there's some conversations we've had with agents lately about off-market properties, your do's and your don'ts. So then Jim asked that Rob and I just go over briefly the rules, guidelines, to make sure we're on the same page and we don't get in trouble. So with off-market properties, there's really not such a thing. So that just kind of, that's like nails in the chalkboard when I hear people talk about off-market properties. We have two governing bodies that we have to abide by. We've got the Georgia Real Estate Commission, correct, and then we have FMLS. And as much as we don't like FMLS, we still have to abide by their rules. With the main GREC rule that we have to abide by is for us to represent a seller, we have to have a signed listing agreement. Before we can start doing any marketing, before we can start promoting, before we can start talking about, before we start acting on behalf of in the interest of that seller, we have to have a signed listing agreement. Then that comes over to what FMLS rules say, and they say that when you take a listing agreement, it's gotta be in their system within so many days, hours. And that a lot of times does not work in conjunction with what the seller wants and what the listing agreement says. And I meant to bring up a listing agreement, and we'll talk about in group coaching, maybe next week or two, we will go over listing agreements and how to fill one out. And we'll promote that to the office so that everybody can come next time we do group coaching. But you've got the date that you take the listing agreement, and you've got the date that it expires, and you got the date that it hits the market. And that's your commencement date. FMLS has become a wee bit lenient on some of their rules, and so the on commencement date has to be within 30 days of you taking that listing agreement. So it gives you a little bit of leeway there, okay? You can, with an active listing agreement, if it hasn't gone active in FMLS yet, you can start marketing it as coming soon. But FMLS says that if you're marketing a property coming soon, you cannot allow anybody to cross the threshold. So, and a lot of people think just because it says coming soon, I can let people start coming to look at it if I start getting phone calls. You cannot let people, please hear me guys, you cannot let people cross that threshold in coming soon status. Now, can you receive a blind offer and present it all day long? And that's what I encourage you to do. If you've got an agent that's got a client or a drive-by and someone's interested, write up an offer, go under contract with a shortened DD period. And then once you're under contract, that person can come and see the house and view the house and just keep it a short DD period to make sure they like the house. So you can do blind offers all day long. What I don't want to happen, and this is what I'm afraid is going to start happening, is with such low inventory that you're going to get listings and then you're going to start talking about it, and then all of a sudden you've got a buyer and they're going to look at it and they're not following the rules. That could get us in trouble. There was a court case in California about 2 years ago with a coming soon situation where the agent had a coming soon let somebody come look at the house, they went under contract, seller was fine with it, the seller was happy with their offer, until what? Guess what happened?
Buyer got mad.
Their neighbor down the street sold for more. Then all of a sudden, he was mad at his agent because he could have gotten more if he had gone active and had been presented to the entire agent body. And all of a sudden, that agent was in trouble. And that agent's license was suspended because they didn't follow the rules with their local FMLS, but they really truly weren't acting in the best capacity for their client by trying to get the most money for their client. And you're sure,
I
yes,
add a story to this.
yes.
The story itself, right? So I got a call from Amanda this weekend, similar situation. The neighbor behind them wanted to buy the house. The sign was in the front yard. She said, what do I do? I'm like, well, you can make it right a blind offer, or just make it live, right? And she said, well, you know, they don't want all these people coming through. I'm like, nothing in FMLS or anywhere says how long something has to be live, right? You can make it live and you could be under contract in an hour, right? It doesn't matter. So what happened? She made it live. You know how many people went through that house yesterday? 30 people, right? One of our agents, they had an unrepresented person come in, and Amanda was like, I gotta have someone show it. I don't wanna do both sides. Kim Cross went over, showed the property. Those people don't want it. She signed 2 people that were driving by. 2 people driving by to BBA's on the hood of her car.
Love it.
Okay?
Awesome. Yeah.
The other side of that story is those people felt like they didn't have an opportunity to meet the market. She met the market. It's a 325 listing. It needs to be updated and everything, but someone can move in right away, right? It's probably gonna sell 350 to 375.
Are y'all, any questions about this?
No.
About the question, is that clear? Yes, guys?
I have an observation, right? Because I think in a market like this, where there are 19 listings, you're doing your seller a disservice if you don't go live. So that 30 people could see it and sell it at the highest possible price. We lost out on a 600-something thousand listings in Smyrna, so I called the agent when I told him about it. 7 offers, the one that he took, they waived everything, and they went above list price. So we're seeing this kind of market again, so guys, go get your listings and go live.
Well, and I also want to piggyback, I think there is a huge misunderstanding on how to use the authorization to show unlisted.
Yes.
That is not to be used if you're representing the seller.
That's for a for sale by.
That is only to be used if you have a buyer brokerage agreement and you go and you look at a house that truly is not on the market. There's no sign in the yard, there's no agent or a FSBO who's selling it by themselves. That's when you send that form over to the unrepresented seller. They give you permission, they're agreeing to pay you a commission, they're giving you permission to make an offer on their house. That is the only time. A lot of people are using an authorization to show unlisted to try to get around the FMLS rules. If you've got a seller, it holds zero weight because that's not what that form's intended for. So keep that in mind also, all right?
And everybody who knows agents out there, call all your agent friends and tell them to work hard and get listings.
Yes.
So we can sell them.
All right, any questions, guys? All right, thank you, have a good day.
Thank you, Sherry. Sherry's trying to keep us out of real estate prison. Okay, Lon. Sherry cannot be here today, so she sent her assistant.
More truth to that than we know. Good morning, guys. Yeah, Carrie is down for some of her. She has an R&R. If you look at it, her R&R is her work, but then she has to go on a vacation too. I think her job is a vacation. But she's down at the beach, and she sent me an email, and I was fortunately able to come up here. We start till 10. But and I saw Chris coming in here, and he asked me a question that reminded me of one thing. A lot of you know our main big Woodstock office that Mark and I built and had forever. It flooded completely on Christmas Eve with the freezing pipes and everything, to the tune of about $500,000. And but it's going to be open April 3rd. So it's been closed since then. A lot of you probably didn't know that. We had to shuffle people around to different offices and work from home and all that. But fortunately, Mark had a very good, it was Christmas Day when I went out there, because the fire department called me and Mark was out of state, and they said, you've got a problem that you need to check out in the morning. And I went up there and you couldn't even get in those double doors in the back because it was like an ice. I mean, it's just been rolling down the stairs and all the insulation was gone. But I called a guy that happened to be a friend of mine. I showed you how this has nothing to do with real estate. But I did do a closing for the guy. He was an extremely nice guy. About 3 years ago, downstairs in this office. And we knew some of the same people. I remember him talking to him. And he gave me his card. And he goes, listen, I hope you never need me. But if you ever need me, I helped his daughter out. I think it was his daughter. And he goes, you give me a call, I'll take care of you. And it popped in my mind. And I didn't remember his name, but I put water remediation. I called that guy on Christmas morning. He answered. He goes, no, I'm in the office. I'll be down there in 15 minutes. And so he had a lot of other calls, as you might know. Everybody was getting crazy. But we've had a lot of good fortune happen with it for it to be open April 3rd. So physically, you'll be able to go back to that office if you so desire. It helped that we had an office less than a mile away, which makes no business sense, but that's the way it worked out. But having said that, Chris told me that, and I wanted to remind you guys that office will be occupied, open, and everything to service you if you want to use that one starting April 3rd.
That's the one behind the Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, the one, the main, the big office,
and Whataburger.
standalone. Yeah. And it's gonna have all new stuff in it, so it's gonna be real nice.
Real fast, the Blue Ridge location, I had to close there last week. That's a great location too.
That location, there's a lot of exciting potential things coming up about us in that Blue Ridge market. So that office, and thank you, Chris, for that office, that area up there is booming, and we have that office up there to serve you, and it looks very bright up there. So thank you for mentioning that.
Sure.
Carrie wanted me to mention that on April 13th, and she'll send out reminders and everything, but on April 13th from 10 to 1 o'clock, Cheryl will be up here teaching a CE class. It's regarding the Fair Housing Act. I think it's the 55th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act. And so it's going to be all a recap of all of the things you guys need to know. Tina, that would be a great one to come to start to as far as education.
Yeah.
Because there's so many good education opportunities here. But she wanted to let you know that, and she'll send something out and to get an RSVP of how many people are coming, but I'm sure we'll do lunch or something like that. So other than that, guys, I just wanted to say hello, and I know y'all got a lot of good things to get
Actually, I have
to.
a story. So
Okay.
I've been working with Age this weekend. She has a contract on her house, it's a cash deal. And there was a problem that she checked out with the pre-closure of this major law firm. And I may or may not tell you major law firm, but he checked it out, and it said everything looks good. Well, 2 weeks before closing, they said, oops, this is now a problem. Well, she calls Lon, and Lon says, oh, we can do that. We can make that happen because my underwriter said it's okay. She calls back and says, Lon Thomas can do it, why can't you? The response was, not my problem.
Wow. And we're doing that closing Wednesday. So I know the one he was talking about, it was gonna require a complete reprobate of an estate. And the other attorney was not wrong in what they were telling them that a potential issue was, but we have been doing this so long, and our relationship with our underwriters is such that I was able to call them, 2 different major title companies, say, here's the situation, here's what I'm prepared to get. If I do this, will you allow this to close and me insure over a potential problem down the road? And they all agreed. So it was able to, there's a few more affidavits that have to get signed by these sellers, but you're closing on Wednesday as opposed to them telling them it's gonna be 6, 8, 10 weeks, however long it takes to get probated. So thank you, Tim.
But the cool thing is that he had a solution. The other one had a problem. Right?
Everybody in our business seems to want to say no.
They do.
I fight it sometimes in ours that we need to have the mentality to say yes. Now we got to do it responsibly, and we can't risk things to your clients or to us because ultimately I have liability for certain things. But we do try to solve your problems and hope to gain your business through that, among a lot of other things.
Guys,
Thank you.
Thanks, Lon.
Thanks, Lon.
Should I steal Jeff's thunder?
Can you do it?
I'm kidding, you say it.
One's enough.
What's cold in here now? Let it.
Only one.
Buenos dias.
I just want to remind you guys, it is the 21st? And we can still close by the end of this month. So if you've got a deal that's in trouble, just remember we can make that 8-day deadline. We always like to mention that at the end of the month. And we can. You want to talk about this?
So Ty Anderson, who was here for last month's, Market Like a Rockstar, social media, Market Like a Rockstar 2.0. So Ty Anderson is going to be back tomorrow from just a 90-minute workshop, not a CE class, 11 to 12:30. Video killed the radio star. So he's going to go deep into doing videos and strategies, all that good stuff.
You might not be able to read that, but it says video content on social media is 1,200% more successful. So that would help.
So we've gotten a bunch of RSVPs so far. We're going to be downstairs in the lead gen room, right?
What are the hours? 11?
11 to 12:30.
We'll have lunch too.
Yeah, now who's coming? Lunch will be provided, so if you can RSVP. That's gonna be a bridge. So resend the link, let us know.
Yeah, or just let us know, drop in the office and let us know, we'll sign you up.
Oh, is it also, how do you sign up virtually?
There's a link, and I sent out an email yesterday, but just come downstairs and, we'll get you hooked up. I think there's one more slide. Okay, so everyone's probably wondering what's happening with rates right now, and they are like this, like the Charlie Brown sweatshirt. And so what I think we need to remember is, even if your client is buying right now, and I know you guys know this, they're gonna have a temporarily much higher rate than they will in the future. So we're just reminding everybody, we are going to be doing our 2-step refinance. It's a 0 lender cost, no appraisal fee, refinance. So buy now, get the house you want, refinance when you're sitting in your new home.
You like that?
Awesome.
Well, I ain't gonna like that.
Is there lunch with that?
I will buy them lunch. Yeah, cool.
Well, great. Any questions? Y'all have been awesome. We so appreciate Tim, Kathleen, Beulah, and I so appreciate all your referrals. So thank you.
The closing company. Good time for you to be here, and we're talking about leverage.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You want me to talk about leverage, or
Well,
you were gonna talk
Well,
about leverage?
actually, Libby's gonna talk about leverage, but you do the same thing.
Okay, super. So for those of you who might not know who I am, my name is Kim Smith. I'm with the closing company. We're transaction coordinators for real estate agents. And actually, I have a little public service announcement today for you all. I got a call recently from someone who was interested in our services. And they had been involved in a transaction where they had not received or requested a receipt for the earnest money that was being held by the other party. So the reminder is to always request a deposit receipt. Now, in this case, there was actually a check. We don't see checks very much anymore for earnest money, almost never. But if you do get a check, and the other side gets a check, don't just accept a copy of that check. That check actually needs to be deposited. So the public service announcement is to get a deposit receipt from the other side if the other side is holding the earnest money. In this case, what had happened was they had given a check, the people working on the transaction had just made a copy of the check and accepted that, went all the way through the transaction, got up to before the closing, fire defaults. Earnest money had never been deposited, so they didn't have the earnest money to give to the seller. Big mess, and everybody gets involved. So that's one thing we do at the closing company. We dot the i's, cross the t's, make sure that we have deposit receipts for the earnest money from the other side, and just make sure you look good in your transaction and handle all the little details.
So how soon should someone start using it? Their first year in business, and how soon should they start that?
Some people like to start right away, like for their first few transactions, especially if they feel like a little uncomfortable with the process, because we act a little bit like a mentor going through the first we copy you on all of our emails, we make sure that you know what's going on, so that you don't miss anything, because sometimes with your first few, you might not know what you don't know, and you don't know what to ask, so we can help with that. Our typical clients are people who, you might have to be at a point where you've got one transaction for the month, but when you have your second one that month, that's when you really don't want things to fall through the cracks, because that's when deadlines start going and things start happening, and it's easy to start, working on the business instead of getting more clients. And what can also happen is something can fall through the cracks, or when you're done with those 2 transactions, you look up and you got no more business, because you weren't looking for more business that whole time, you were just working on the business, so.
Yeah, I've been using them forever. And I wouldn't go back. Like, if I was the first day in the business, I would definitely start right away, because it gives you time to do the things you should do.
It's an expensive lesson when you miss a deadline.
Yes, it is. And speaking of expenses, so we charge $4.15, and you don't pay anything until it closes. And if it falls through, you don't owe any money. So when you talk about leading with revenue, you can lead with revenue. Thank you.
Thank
Love
you,
you
Kim.
guys.
So, Kim, you've been here how many years, Kim? In this office? As part of this office?
Okay.
Is your question?
2007 was when I first started working at this office.
She's still here, guys, and so we appreciate you being faithful to us also. Let's give her a hand, guys. All right, so we're not gonna ask to pick their favorite Whiteboard C2Ts. Since you're presenting, Libby, which one jumps out off the page to you today?
Teamwork. Together, everyone achieves more.
All right, so tell me why you picked that one.
Well, mostly because it fits in with what I'm about to share with you. But no, I think it's true. I think that especially as newer agents, single agents, the weight of the world is on your shoulders. Your to-do list is never ending.
Right.
And you go farther if you go together. If you have some help, you can take some things off of your plate. You're going to get more done and help more people.
I love teamwork because, and the people you surround yourself with, your team defines you, believe it or not, they define you. So congratulations. That's a great report this morning. Thank you. Agents, staff highlight. Let's see what we're going to highlight this morning. Oh my goodness, look who's here. Previous occupation. Customer service manager. Would that be good in real estate? 100%. Shows good because of the reputation. Let's welcome Fatima again. Worked in 4 different continents the last 23 years of my career. 4 different continents. Wow, that's cool. Right, that's great. And Chris Van Zandt. Yeah, let's give Chris a hand. He was director of the travel team with the Atlanta Braves and chose Caleb because of the culture and the training. What was your first year? What did you do your first year with the Braves, Chris?
I was a bat boy in 1990. Those kids that run around the field.
And it must have been wonderful being down on the field with those players, and you're the bat boy. What an experience. Great. Everybody, 5 years in real estate on our LC, helps us a lot with training. So Chris, we value you also. Thank you so much. I'm loving these guys, by the way. How to import your cell phone. Now, guys, kind of come in. So the Southeast region is in a little bit of a contest because they want to get 201 contacts in at least 50% of Keller Williams in the Southeast region. The reason being is that it is statistically shown that if you have 201 contacts or more in your database and you have a smart plan, I remember this morning, Rob, a smart plan for that. You will do $120,000 in GCI because of those contacts. So guys, we want to get you there because it'll help you grow. And if you don't have 201 in your contact list, it's actually in your phone. And today we're going to show you how to take them off the phone. I'm not going to show you. That's not true. They're going to show you how to take it off the phone and put it in your contact list. And then we'll talk about a smart plan later. So staff to the meeting, if you've not done this, and we'll help you with that. Anything to add to that at all, Kim? Thank you so much, Kim. And Okay, all right, guys, divorce and mediation, clients and real estate, lunch and learn, Thursday, March the 23rd, this Thursday, in person from 11:30 to 1, guys. This is a great way for you guys to leverage, to have more business, because, and know how to do it, because what happens is that all of a sudden, you've been great friends with the husband and the wife, as soon as they start getting divorced, you become the bad person. So so guys, how to manage that conflict, come and find out this 23rd on Thursday. Downstairs, Timber, up here.
Up here.
Up here, exactly right, Chuck. Command happy hour, forget about this. Now, guys, this is such a hidden tool that a lot of y'all not using, but Kevin Jackson is the best at showing how to do this. So guys, my point with Kevin, reach out to him. He does this for us for basically for free. So guys, he's great at command and will help you know how to just push the button to get command started. He's very patient.
But remind them it is an appointment only, so you need to let him know in advance you want to do it, and then he'll send you a link.
And he'll do it for you, which is cool. Fair housing course. And guys, you need to take this fair housing course, because I'm hearing from attorneys now that one of the things that people are saying is that I did not get that house because I was X. So guys, you need to know how to do fair housing and how to handle fair housing, because once they accuse you guys, it becomes tough to prove that you did not alienate somebody in a protected group. So guys, come take this class. It's only $20, and you'll learn a lot about yourself and about others. So come do it. It's taught by Kathy Woods. Export and import neighborhood contacts to command. Guys, March 24th, are you aware that there's a way that you can import from what system, Kim?
Where are you gonna use? Reddit?
Reddit, say right, guys, where you can, if you want to farm a particular neighborhood, we have a way to export that whole neighborhood into your command, where you can use that to reach out to that neighborhood. Guys, so come do this. This is a great class where you can have more people in your command and have a way to touch them regularly. And when you want to send out a postcard in the neighborhood, it's easier to do because it's already in command. So guys, come do this on the 24th. This room should be packed, because that's another way for you guys to leverage to get more business. Group coaching, led best pay exhibit and finance exhibit in person, 11 to 12 only, and that is on March the 27th, God, Monday.
Please attend.
Save the date, Red Day. Guys, it's coming up Thursday, May the 11th. Please put it on your calendar. I'd love for you to try to block, not try to block that out to where we can all serve someone that day. It's probably going to be a couple of cherries, which they'll announce soon. So just realize that is coming. John didn't announce it yet, right? Anyway, I've not been told to announce, so I'll wait till we get all the details.
Yeah, there's some different activities with a couple different charities. So
exactly right, Jeff. We're gonna have a couple different ones. Cool. Thank you. Thursday, March the 30th, Mark Durden's going to be here to talk about how to master appraisals. Guys, that's going to become a problem again because prices continue to go up. So guys, Mark Durden is a dear friend of this office. He used to actually be in this office for a while, and I have an office here. So he's a great guy, knows the East Cobb market better than anybody that I know. Plus, I love you really all over Metro. So come, this is his class Thursday, March the 30th.
Jim?
Sir.
We've got about 30 RSVPs for that, but we've got a handful of people who have RSVP'd on Facebook, and they haven't gone in and registered. So if anybody needs to get the link to do that, just ask me or Danielle. We'll be happy to get you connected.
Well, thank you for running that class. It's a wonderful class. All right, Rob, very quickly, lessons learned.
So it's funny how timing comes out on things. So I read an article last week in Inman, and I sent it to Jim, and then all of a sudden we get a call from a guy out of the blue. And the article was about floor plans, putting them on your listings, right? And how prevalent that is right now. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, all right. But the National Association of Realtors this year did a survey of buyers, right? The first two things buyers wanted to see, obviously photos and a write-up about the property. So that's like a given, right? The next thing that they wanted, 70% of all of those buyers wanted to see floor plans for the homes, and here is why, because they went in deeper. They want to know how big the rooms is. They want to know the layout as you walk in. How many times you had someone walk in a house and like, oh yeah, this is not what I thought, you know?
Yep.
Right? Will your furniture fit? Okay. So I talked to this company yesterday called Kubicasa, where you simply are in the home with your phone and you walk around. You don't have to do anything. It maps the house for you. Kubicasa. It's free. It's free. If you want to add things to it, like you want to put a refrigerator in, and you want to put some labels in or something like that, it's $10 on the listing to do that. Okay, so I got the information. I'm not going to go deep into this, but when 70% of buyers, right, are saying that this is what they want, besides photos, I mean, it's like a no-brainer, you know, and it's going to help you sell your listings because they're going to have a better idea of what's in there, right? How many times you guys look at photos and go, why'd they lay out the photos that way? Where am I in a house? So 70% want it. Okay,
How
so
do you
does
spell it?
Kubicasa.
Can you spell that?
C-U-B-I. Hold on a second.
CUBICASA. There's an app on the App Store.
Oh, there it is.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
It's free.
I'm a fan of free.
So I'm gonna have this guy do a Zoom call and people can log in. You have to do it through Georgia MLS at first. They're working with FMLS, but it's free. So you go in through Georgia MLS and you put it on your thing and you just put the photos in FMLS. So good to go. And there's a 25% discount. It's gonna be coming out. So that's what I learned this week. See me for more information.
Yes, ma'am.
If it's free, why is there a discount?
No, so the regular layout is free. If you want to put like refrigerator in there and add add-ons to it, it's $10 to $15. But even so, even if it was $10 for a listing, I'd pay that. You know, $10.
Buy a Starbucks coffee for $7.
What's that?
You buy a Starbucks coffee for $7.
Well, we don't drink the bougie stuff like you. I'm a $2 Starbucks coffee guy.
And I made a cup of coffee downstairs.
There you go, Jim.
Or a free one downstairs.
Yes, exactly.
So guys, when you come up, we're gonna talk to you about leverage. You guys are be quiet, Rob. Not your turn. I'm gonna remind you when we get started, talk about leverage. You know, our business partners here, you know who they are, been here for a long time, and they put money back into this office. They sponsor your lunches, this kind of stuff. They put money back in the offices, and believe it or not, they need your referrals right now, just like you need their referrals. So guys, I would just ask you that that you would, when your buyer tells you, I've already been qualified by Snowmore Mortgage. And they say, and I've got a rate that's 4.5%. You may go, my lender's telling me that rate's not out there right now. Yeah, that you would say, well, let's do this, guys. How about you calling a lender that's one of my partners, and let's just let them have that conversation with you to make sure what you're getting is that real rate, guys. So I just ask you to remember our partners here, like Lon downstairs. We finally got that closing to him because we know he'll get it closed, guys. But remember, the people that are here are tried and true people, and they'll make sure that your client hears the right thing and not that, oh yeah, I can do it 4.5. Oh, you don't need a cosigner here. And guess what happens week before closing? Oh, you have to have a cosigner. I said, guys, please remember our partners here because they'll feed their families also. Is that true? And can we give us a hand for our partners here? They're amazing. Amazing.
No, thank you. Well, yeah, thank you guys for having me up. So I wanted to talk about leverage because I think that all of us in here know there's almost no busier life than you can imagine than being a single agent trying to make all of the things happen. Our to-do list is never ending, and it's going to be really hard to figure out how can I even possibly think about growing my business when, oh my gosh, my list at the end of the day is only half checked off, or there's just always another task waiting for me to do. It can just feel very, very overwhelming. So first, A few tips, if you are brand new or if you average, maybe one closing a month or less, you still can add leverage. You're not at the point where you need to hire, hire an admin or anything like that, but you still can add some leverage in your life. Actually, that was the first thing I was going to say is really some of your first leverage is really having vendor partners like our lenders in the office and beyond that, having you need to create a vendor list. And again, start with our office vendor list. Don't recreate the wheel, establish relationships. But if you know you've got people that you trust, that'll take you so far. My clients actually just a week ago were laughing. We were walking through at the end of a home inspection and they're like, we're going to make you a shirt and it's going to say listed by Livia on the front, and on the back it's going to say I've got a guy. Because that's constantly what I'm telling people. Oh my gosh, there's possible mold in the basement, and I'm freaking out. I was like, okay, don't worry, I've got a guy. I've got an awesome mold guy, and it can be fixed. We'll make sure we fix the problem, not just the mold, but what's causing it. But relax, and that keeps a lot of deals together when you have people that you trust. And then also, this is my favorite part, you don't have to become the expert in mold. Who has time to become the expert in mold when you've got all this other stuff going on? And I think especially when you're kind of pre-qualifying buyers, I know that, Jim, you've said this, I've never pre-qualified a buyer either. You know why? Because I trust my lenders that I send them to. And if I don't trust who they're getting pre-qualified with, I want them to at least have a conversation with my lender. It wastes my time and I don't know what I'm talking about, and I can get in trouble fast if I'm figuring out, oh, well, what do you make? Guess what? I don't want to know what you make. How much debt do you have? I definitely don't want to know how much you debt you have, because that's not my job. And I don't want to start doing somebody else's job, because my job is plenty. I don't need to get in the weeds of what the lender's job is. I need to know that I trust the pre-qualification letter you got, and if it's with one of our partners or with a lender I know, I trust it. They're doing their job, I can do mine. I don't have to do their job too. I don't have to try to get in there. So I think as a newer agent, if you really trust your people and you're really focusing on your job and what you need to do, you get there faster. Also, I know that this is not always popular, because I know sometimes people say, oh, save your time, don't go to the home inspection. I'm not saying that you need to go to every home inspection, and I'm definitely not saying you need to attend the entire home inspection. That is probably a waste of your time. However, the more home inspections you attend, and I'm talking like the last 30 minutes, walk through with the inspector, you meet your clients, you see the house again, you make sure they're, you calm them down because they're buying a house and they're freaking out. Okay, it's not perfect, but let's talk through what problems there are. It also gets you a lot better at recognizing what problems are. That makes you better at showing houses. And that saves you time, right? Because then when you're showing a house and you see a big old crack in the foundation, you can know, okay, well, that's just a step crack in this, you can't wiggle and nickel, it's probably fine, we can get it checked out, but no big deal. When it's something way larger, you can say, I'm not an expert in this, but this is probably going to require a structural engineer on top of the inspection report. Are you willing to pay $1,000 to find out what needs to happen to this house? And if you're not, let's move on to the next house. And then you saved everybody's time and heartache, right? So sometimes leverage is just getting better at your job, and I think attending inspections gets you better at your job because you're recognizing problems ahead of time and you're coming up with solutions and you're just saving your time, if that makes sense. And then also I think, especially as a newer agent, but really all the time, this is always the thing, we have to kind of set a schedule and stick to it. For me, I am not a night person. You try to talk to me after 10 p.m. and I'm not responsible for how I respond. I'm like, I can't do the midnight oil very well. So I've always kind of had a habit and routine, and especially when I was a newer agent without help, is I get kind of my busy work, the stuff that is important but it's not urgent. I get that done in the morning before my clients are awake, before the day starts rolling, and then I know, okay, some of these things I've checked off, but I'm not wasting my daytime hours, because my daytime hours need to be spent doing the most important things. I need to be talking to my people, I need to be building relationships, I need to be getting in front of people and lead gen. That stuff can't happen at 5 a.m. But you know what can? Some of these amendments sent off, then you can just prioritize your time for getting, saving what has to be done in the important time for that, if that makes sense. Okay, so who here has ever closed more than 2 transactions in a month? Raise your hand. You've ever closed more than 2 transactions in a month. it gets crazy, right? So I think, in my opinion, really when you're starting to think about how the heck can I continue to grow this business when this list of what I need to do in the business gets so long, that's when you are start to think about leverage, especially when that becomes consistent. When you're consistently getting 2 deals or more a month, you need to be thinking about this, because the way to grow, the only way to grow to that next step is taking some things off of your plate. I think that the first, like we talked, I love the closing codes here today. I think that is the perfect first step. It's very low risk because you don't have to save up for a salary, right? If you have a month with no closing, guess what? You have no bills because so it is a very easy way to start. So I think if you don't have a contract to close coordinator, and I'm not saying you can't start ahead of time, but I do think it's important for you guys. I think we all have to know what the process is. We don't have to do it every time, but we want to know what the process is and how do you like to work? What is your standard for your clients? What do you want your client experience to feel like? And you have to learn that in order to, pass that on to somebody else. But I think hiring someone like a contract to close coordinator, someone like the closing co is an amazing first step. I have a habit of hiring too late and I pay for it in my stress level at times. So I don't think I hired a closing coordinator until I was 2 years. I was probably averaging like 30 some transactions a year before I even hired that. And then by the time I was a few months.
Crazy girl.
I know. And then I was a few months into that where I realized this is great. This is really helpful. This is not enough. And so that's when I started really thinking about, I really need like I need a second person in my life who is in my business and can really help. So I started looking for an admin. What I did, I'm also very low risk. So I saved up 6 months salary, right? I think I had even maybe more than that, but I had at least $20,000 in a bank account that I didn't touch. And I didn't really even start the process until I had that money. Because then I know, all right, if I have a bad month, I don't have to say, hey, sorry, person that's relying on me to pay your bills, I can't pay you, and I have to fire you. That doesn't feel good. I don't want to do that. So I personally saved 6 months salary before I even really went down the road. And I started doing, like, I took career visioning, which I saw, does anybody know? That's coming up soon. I just got an email for it yesterday.
Yep,
there you go.
First week in April.
So I took career visioning with Eric Decker back in 2019. 18? When did you start? 2019. 2019 in the spring. Yeah, see again. This is why she's not the person. She knows the details. So I took career visioning, and if you are making a hire, especially your first hire, it's a have to take. I'm happy to have coffee with you and share more about what I've learned, but the class is awesome, and it really helps expand your mind to think about who do I need in my world and what is the process of hiring the right person. Because I think the temptation is, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, I just need some help. But then if you hire the wrong person, the time that you invest, and not only the time, it's like the energy, it can drain you if you make the wrong hire and you're continuing to train them and build and try to pour into them, and you can realize quickly if this is going to be a fit or not. If you're like, oh God, I'm about to have to go have another conversation with this person, that's not what you want in somebody who you're hiring to help you. I think I have a ton of notes and I'm not going to even get through them all. I'm happy to share these with anybody because really the past year and a half, I went through yesterday, I keep a little binder, and anytime I go to a class or training or something, or with somebody for coffee, I took notes, and a lot of my notes the past year and a half has been about hiring. So I'm happy to share all of this with anybody. I'm not going to hit all of it today. But some of the key points, I think, first, before you're thinking about hiring, before you're thinking about any of that, you have to be crystal clear. What life do you want for yourself? What do you want your life to feel like? What do you want your life to look like? How long do you want to be in this business? And then you kind of figure out, what's my pathway? Where am I headed? Like for me personally, I have zero interest in becoming that 7th level agent. I love working with clients. I don't want to work myself out of this business. I hold the right to change my mind 30 years from now and be like, oh my God, get me away from these crazy people. But for now, I am incredibly happy being kind of the face. Getting to communicate with clients is what I love to do. So I've kind of grown my business, and of course I've made mistakes along the way of figuring out what that looks like for me. But I kind of figured out first what I want it to look like. And even Gary Keller, who, I mean, again, we don't need to recreate the model, right? We've got the model. But even Gary said at a mastermind once that I took notes at, that you really have to figure out what's the best fit for you. There is not one way to do this. There's no intention within Keller Williams for every single agent to become a 7th level. That's just not the right thing for everybody. But it's really figuring out, okay, what does feel right for me? Because I do think that there's no crazier life than an individual agent trying to sell 25, 45, 55, 60 homes, and you've got very little support. Like that, do you have the ability and enough gas in the tank to do that for 10, 15, 20 years? Sounds really tiring. But it's really thinking about what do you want, and getting crystal clear on that life, and then that helps you figure out what's the path to get there. Another note is that only you can set the tone and the direction, your branding, your standard, and especially like your client experience. So you can bring people into your world, but you're the one that sets the tone, that sets that standard of this is what it means to be listed by Libby. This is what it means to be a client. This is what the experience is like for them. And you're teaching whoever you bring into your world, this is what we do. This is what we care about. And also, this is what isn't so important to us. You know, you kind of have to figure out that, because that's, if you're looking for direction on that, hire a coach. Don't hire somebody to be your boss. You are the one that has to direct the vision. So if you don't have that vision, get a coach to help you get really, really clear on that before you bring somebody in, because it's not going to help bringing somebody in if you don't know what you want and what you want it to look like and feel like for you. I think you do also have to be really clear on your standards, on what you are looking for, what's super important to you. So like, for example, if you're hiring your first admin, I think, again, the list of the tasks that they can do is never ending, because the list of tasks that you are doing is never ending. But it's really getting clear on what are the things that I most need help with right now. And I think another question is, what can somebody else do 70 to 80% as good as I can do? And if they can do it 70 to 80% as good as you if you train them, and if it's not in the thing that is feeding your business, because I think, in my opinion, you can't really get rid of, at least easily, and especially not at the beginning, you can't really get rid of the lead gen. You can't get rid of negotiating contracts. You can't get rid of even, like, you know, finding unlisted properties. Like, there's some of those things that are your core competencies as an agent that you need to get the other things off your plate so you can focus on growing your business. So there's some things you can't take off your plate. But you have to kind of figure out, okay, what are some of the things I can take off my plate, and some of those things that are not they have to get done, but it doesn't matter if they're done by somebody other than me. As long as they do it kind of, train them the way I want them to do it, and go from there, you can train somebody to do those things. And I also think that one mistake that I see people make early on is they want their admin to be everything that they're not. You know, hey, let me give you this. I'm going to have you do all the contract to close. I want to take over my my bookkeeping. I want you to take over all social media, and I want you to take care of my database. And it's just like, anything else, sweetheart? Like, really? You know, that's just a lot for one person to take on. So you have to be realistic on what can be done by one person. And sometimes you need more help than just one admin, right? Like, Kim started with me August of 2019. Yep. And she started part-time for
20 hours.
2 years? No, you did about 20 to 25 hours a week.
Okay, sure.
Was it about 2 years?
Yeah, sounds good. It felt like more, but yeah.
Back pay.
I know, right? I owe her a lot. But yeah, so Kim came on and she started at, like, I think it was hourly.
Oh,
but
yes,
it was around
yes.
20 to 25 hours, and some weeks for more.
Yes.
Very few weeks for less, just because, you know, the life of a realtor. But I mean, we kept you.
Oh, I would say, yeah, there was some
year
good
and a half, 2
consistent.
years?
I really don't know exactly.
It was a span of time
Yeah.
before she went full time.
Correct, yes.
And then finally got to the point where it's like, okay, there's just more to take on than we are getting done together. And she are always, when I hired her, I wanted somebody who wanted part-time but had the interest in growing to full-time. And that's what happened. You went to full-time and it was like, okay, great. And I, have not always been the best at this, but I have always intended to be cautious about contacting her after hours. I do it now because we've grown to the point we've been together 3.5 years, and I know she really genuinely doesn't care. But I try not to overwhelm her on nights and weekends. On nights and weekends, I can write my own offers and even my own amendments. It's hard, but I can do it. But it's like you have to kind of have expectations that are realistic, right?
I think communication is super important. Because if you step out for a couple hours with Libby and you come back in and you may have missed something. So I think that, kind of understanding what your agent wants from you and where you can best help them, even if it's something that she's very capable of doing, if I can take it off of her plate and just say, is this good? And she says yes, then it just keeps her generating in the lead area.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's all about being clear on who you are, what you bring, and what goals you are. Like for me, I know I'm not really like a process person. I'm more like, let's get it done fast, let's go, 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 go. Whereas Kim's the one that can kind of like, okay, let's slow down and like think about what can we do better next time. I'm also not a person that pauses to celebrate. I'm very much hey, we closed, all right, next deal. We got to get on the next one. So it's like, and again, I don't know that there's always a solution to that, but it's just sometimes you need the person who can have a different view of things than you bring to the table to kind of help you. And I also think that there's two different types of hires, right? So, and this is what I learned from my coach, and I thought it was really helpful to think about. There's a hire for luxury. For me, this is my house cleaner. She's not necessarily bringing me more business because she's cleaning my house, because let's be honest, even if I didn't have a house cleaner, I'm not spending 3 hours cleaning my house for 2 weeks. That's not happening. That is just a luxury hire, right? And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's hires for growth. I expect a return on my investment with this person. Like if I were to bring on a buyer's agent and all they do is take the leads that I give them, that's not working for me. If I were to hire a buyer's agent, that's going to be somebody that gets a return on the investment of the time, and they're helping me make more money. And generally speaking, there's no one hire that's, those are examples that are kind of close to the edge, but all of them are going to be somewhere on that spectrum. So it's really thinking through, okay, if I'm bringing somebody on, is it just for luxury? So I create a little bit more time on the weekend, a little bit more of this, or is it really like a return on my investment? So like for example, right now I have a showing assistant that is dedicated to me, that doesn't have her own business, doesn't bring in leads, she just shows houses. So I don't expect a return on investment for her. She's not lead gen, I don't expect her to lead gen. If she gives me a lead every once in a while, that's amazing, but it's not the expectation. That's a luxury hire that frees up my time so I can get more done, but she herself is not necessarily bringing me more business. Does that make sense? So it's not really more of an ROI hire, it's just hey, this is a luxury and this helps me lead the life that I want where I have some time off. Let me tell you how happy I've been the last 3 weeks because her license accidentally lapsed and I've had to show every house. Not very happy. Once you have some kind of leverage, it's very hard to go back to doing it all yourself. But again, I think it's really thinking through what is getting me closer to my ideal job description. So for me, when I have a showing assistant, I'm still doing the buyer consultation, I'm still building that relationship, I'm still going out the first time with them and my showing assistant, so I'm kind of seeing the process, but then that second and third and fourth and fifth time that they want to see a house, I'm telling them, oh, that's so awesome, Christy's going to schedule it, she's going to meet you there, let me know how it goes. And I'm just a little bit more hands off, and then when they find the house, I'm going to look at it, or I'm going to that home inspection, I'm getting really excited with them, I'm kind of guiding them through the closing process, but really a lot of the heavy lifting is done by my team of admin support, and then I get to show up at closing and celebrate with them. So that just gives me a little bit more of the life I want to live, where I'm getting the client relationship and that face-to-face time, but I don't have to do all of the tasks myself, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else is really helpful. I also think that when you are making a hire, you gotta kind of have, you need a job description, right? And that's challenging because there's times when I'm like, hey, just follow me around and see what I do. And you learn a lot that way, but maybe not what would be helpful always of what you can take off. I think you have to kind of start with an idea of these are the things I want someone to take from me. And there will be, you have to slow down to speed up. So you have to slow down to train somebody in order to speed up long term, right? And that's what a lot of the hiring process is, slowing down so you can speed up. And it's painful because you might wait to hire somebody, like I think when I was starting the interview process, which I went through the whole career visioning process, which is very long and tedious for hiring Kim. And I think especially when you're hiring admin support, you've got to follow that whole process because they're going to see you naked. They're going to see your weaknesses. They're going to see all of you, and you want that to be the absolute right fit. But there were times when I think I started the process and I had 10 deals closing in 1 month for the very first time. And I was like, I was running around with my head cut off being like, how do I do this and also fit in 3 interviews a week to make sure I can get help? But again, I knew that if I didn't take that time, it was only going to get worse or I would just crash and burn. So it's like, you just make the time that you have to make. But I think really going through the career visioning process and having a job description, knowing that it can change. You know, and Kim, Kim's job description has changed 5 times over, and that's being it's probably way more than that, of like what things that I have her do. But I think having a plan to begin with and being clear on that, and then also having a 30, 60, 90. 30, 60, 90 is what you expect them to do the first 30 days, the first 60 days, and the first 90 days. It's a 3-month plan, and it's a plan for you too, of like, here's the training I'm gonna give you, but then also you're learning as you go, and by the end of the 30 days, by the end of the 60 days, by the end of the 90 days, here's the things that I expect you to be able to do proficiently. And if you get to that 90 days with somebody and they haven't cut, really you should have figured that out in 60 days or 30 days of like, oh my gosh, you are not catching on, you're not going at my pace, this is not gonna work out. Because like that, there's a reason the wisdom is always be slow to hire, quick to fire. You'll know in your gut if it's going to be the right fit or not. But yeah, I have more notes, but I want to hear questions or what's actually helping.
I'm saying that I'm a single agent and I'm thinking, well, I can't afford this,
Right.
I don't have time to do this. So it's like investment properties. We all know you need investment property, but all people are like frozen in how you get the first step. So if you're like, well, if you're just thinking, if you're like a really busy agent, you're thinking, what's my very first step? What would you advise them to do first?
I mean, again, I think that first step for leverage is figuring out what you want it. I also think that sometimes I think it can become tied up in our identity, especially if you've been an agent. Let's say you've been an agent for 10 or 15 years. At that point, being a single agent is part of your identity and it's how you see yourself. And it's almost a pride thing. It's kind of like those people that, oh, I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. I mean, first, good for you, but like, is that really the life you want to live? Is that a badge of honor to wear? Or are you chasing kind of the wrong thing? And maybe if you actually schedule your vacations first, you could be the person that takes vacations, even in a crazy market, even in the life that we live. And so I think really like hiring help, the first thing is figuring out what would it look like if I actually, you kind of have to change your identity. What if I'm not just a single agent that does all the things? What if I'm an agent that hires help and it'll help me breathe a little bit? It'll help me go to sleep faster at night. It'll help me, make it to my kids' soccer games more often, or, whatever it is. I think it's really kind of figuring out that you want it. And then the next step is, the next step that I did was started saving for it. So, okay, I get a closing, the very first thing I do, put my percentage towards taxes and it never goes anywhere else. And then I put the next, business credit card, let's pay that off. What do I have left? Okay, well, I'm gonna put a chunk of that in this bank account that I'm saving up for, a salary for that mystery person. And I know once it gets to this point, I am committed to start looking. Or I'm looking now, but I'm not gonna actually hire somebody until I get this much in that account.
My number one excuse that I get is, Jim, I'm a control freak.
I hear that a lot
I can't give up that control because I'm afraid that they'll screw it up for me.
And I absolutely, I hear that, but is your control, is that helping your life? Is being a control freak, is needing to be the one to send out every email and do every phone call, is that actually helping you? Because I think at one point, what got you to where you are now is not always necessarily the thing that will get you to where you want to go. It has served you up to this point to have this amount of success, but is it really going to be the tool that you need to get you to the next level? And I don't think I know, I've never heard of any agent who's, selling 100 houses a year who has those work. I don't think they exist, and if they do, maybe for a year, and it's a firework in the pan, and then they die from a heart attack the next year, it's like, I think that the control is, and I also think when you make the right hire, you're not managing them, right? They're self-motivated and they're doing it themselves, and they're coming up and they're solutions oriented, and they're saying, hey, I know you haven't brought me this problem, but I'm seeing this and I've got this idea, what if we do X, Y, Z? And they're helping you without you telling them, okay, here's what I need you to do. They're self-managing if you hire the right person, and they're hard to find. I'll
You
say
can still
that.
control them. You can still control what they do. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a checks and balance, but you do have to know your why. You do have to have your vision so that you can communicate that to the person that supports you. And then, I basically just, where she leaves off, I take over and finish the drill.
And at this point, Kim is also a manager, because we have a virtual assistant that Kim manages. So she's kind of in that middle where she interprets what I want, makes it happen. It's not always her that does it. Sometimes it's the VA that does it. And then she can kind of come behind and be like, oh gosh, Karina, you messed up this one thing.
You just need to know what you want.
Yeah.
I also really like that people hire cheap.
Mm-hmm.
They get the 18-year-old high school student across the street and say, "Well, I can hire you for $10 an hour."
Right.
Why is that a mistake?
I mean, I think again, you want somebody with staying power. I would never hire somebody if I knew, like my main, at the group interview process, which again, if you've done a career visioning, that's like the last step of the process. You get a group interview in where with other like agents that you trust, other people, like my coach sat in on it. And then you get feedback from them. You're not even in that interview. And I remember with Kim, they were like, okay, she's amazing. The one thing is, she could probably do this job. Like, she's very high I, you're very high I. She's not the typical like admin, profile. So like if she wanted to sell real estate, she probably could. But I'd had enough conversations with her where she's like, I'm too old for that. I don't want to be the face. I want to support you. Like I knew, okay, I'm going to trust her because I've had this conversation enough times that even though I think that she has the skills to do it, she doesn't want to. And I'm going to trust that. And again, here we are 3.5 years later. So, but you're looking for those. But if that was one of the things I was looking for. Anybody that's like, oh, I just like want to come in and like learn the real estate industry. And really what they're not saying is, so I can become an agent and already know it. I don't want that person. I'm like, I invest all this time in you and then you're gonna leave? Or I'm investing all this time in you and then you're gonna go to college in a year? Like, ugh, I don't want that. I want somebody with staying power who's gonna actually be around to help. And, Kim's not allowed to ever leave. But if she does, I'm hopeful that she will train the next person in the world of,
Number one thing that the wellness request that you look for in a team member, what's the number one thing you look for in anybody you bring on your team?
I mean, I think it's multiple things. I think it has to be, it kind of has to be like a core value fit, it has to be if there's somebody that like, because like I think for us, like we are very much like a work hard, we get stuff done, but we also have fun, right? And we also have a high value of people. We care about our people. We want it to go well. We're going to laugh about them being annoying behind a closed door still, but like at the end of the day, our people is our why, so we're gonna do a good job. So I think that core value fit is big, being self-motivated and all those things, like again, that's kind of just part of who we are. But I also think it has to be a fit for the position. So I think you kind of have to have both. Like you're a fit with kind of my brand and who I am, and you're also a fit for here's the holes that I have, and I feel like you can fill them and you won't hate your life if you're doing that job. It's like that this is, but I would say it's kind of just a fit with those two things. Most important thing. And sorry, Cindy, I saw you raise your hand.
Do you train your buying statement pretty well, because I have a hard time, I mean, I can have other people show houses, but I feel like part of my value is being like, okay, these are single pane windows versus double pane and hardwood siding versus the old siding, and this roof needs, let's look at the crawl space and see if there's any water, and see if it needs a vapor barrier, you know, I feel like, I'm like, other people aren't gonna
know that. No, and it's true, because like anybody can open a door, but it really takes some skill to actually show a house. So yeah, like with my showing assistant, she shadowed me to like, basically anytime I was showing a house, I would text her, hey, can you come? And if she could come, great. If she couldn't. But she shadowed me for like at least 3 months, just about every house that I showed. And I was, you know, and she was just kind of a quiet observer. Hey, I've got this, and it was not weird with my clients. Hey, Chrissy's just shadowing me today, kind of learning the industry. Do you mind if she comes along? Oh, no, that's great, come along. And she wasn't chatting it up with them. She really was just kind of listening and watching what are the things that I point out every time. Because I always, again, when I'm showing a house, I'm pointing out the negative stuff. So she learned enough from shadowing me. And the thing that I've realized with hindsight, I haven't continued that education. So I've realized, okay, now we're going to meet and do script practice twice a week. We're going to show some houses together, still preview some houses, because you kind of always have to continue the education. So that's the thing that I have failed at, that I'm, you know, bringing back into my life. Because yeah, I do think it's a lot of, you can do alongside, and then you're not creating more time. You're just showing them by, hey, watch me do this, and watch me show this house. Or even if I'm like I'm walking through at an inspection and she's not able to make it, I'm showing her, hey, do you see this thing? This means that. This is what I've learned. It's not really taking more time, it's just as I go.
It's your script. It's listening to your script as the other person.
Right.
It's listening to what your script is. And I mean, your script is always the same for the most part, depending on the property, but you're going through the same checkpoints. And like, I just.
She's been around me long enough to know, and again, Kim doesn't like show houses for me. She doesn't have
But
buyer
I know
consults,
her buyer
but
consult.
she knows them.
Yeah.
And even like her brother-in-law is buying and selling right now. And literally, I'll say something, and he's like, Kim said that. I was like, yeah, that's why she listens to me all the time for 4 years. Like she just knows how I do the things.
And I learned through the years that it's very important to keep your mouth shut, because I would walk in houses and be like, oh, you can paint these cabinets white, and they'd be like, oh, actually,
We love the
and so I
Yeah.
just learned to like, you know,
Absolutely.
point out structural things, but just sort of, they might like the
Right.
purple walls, and I'm like, you know.
And that's also helping, like you kind of, I do the disc assessment for, you know, anybody that comes on, so you kind of know, like my showing assistant is very SC, which is amazing. Anybody that's bubbly, high I like me, it's like, oh my God, you have to learn to stop talking.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
Yeah.
They want to be able to take in the house. If you're, where'd you go to college? It's like, that's great. You can throw some of those in. But you gotta let them see the house. You know, that's so it's kind of knowing the personality and like the style of the person that's in your world, and really, you know, figuring out how do I cater how I'm training to you specifically, where you will be successful. You know, that might be it. Other questions?
Can you discuss your VA?
Yes. So there was a point, when was it? There was a point when
Was when we had a ton of monthly contracts.
we just had
and it was
too
like,
much going on, and I think what I realized was I wasn't able to put more on Kim's plate, because I could tell with all of the transactions that she just was too busy managing those to be able to do the other things. And I realized, okay, but you're really good at doing the transaction, but I want to put more on your plate, but I don't want to overwhelm you, because I'm always kind of trying to be respectful, right, of someone's time and what they can get done. So I kind of sat her down, and she did not want to, because I love Kim, but she's also kind of a control freak. And I told her, okay, but we're going to be able to go farther if we take this off your plate.
Yeah.
So we ended up first getting a VA local, or not a VA, first getting a contract to close that was, you know, local in our world that we already knew and trusted. And then I can't remember when we decided to go the VA route. It wasn't because our contract to close person was doing a bad job. It just was like, hey, there might be another opportunity here for what we're paying monthly.
it was with your coaching.
Yeah, and I think that's what we realized, is like what we're paying monthly for a contract to close, we could get a part-time cyber.
And then I'd learned enough to know what has to happen during the transaction so that I could monitor and manage.
Yeah.
To make, and that was also what your style is, how you like to communicate to your clients, your buyers, your sellers, and what that looks like. So then I can make sure somebody else is doing that.
Right.
But that it opened up for us to do those back burner projects.
Right. So it was really helpful, and I love not being in charge of the VA. I think she's amazing, and I think it's great. It's worked really well for me to have a local person who is in office. I don't require her to be in the office any certain number of days. We're usually together Mondays and maybe 1 or 2 other days in a week, but it's like, she works from home, it's great. I'm constantly sending her Marco Polos or emails or texts, hey, here's what we're working on, here's what I need. But I don't care if she's in the office. But the VA has been really nice because, again, Kim kind of decides what projects to give her and what she does. And Kim did the transaction coordination enough to know she fully trained her. So again, it didn't really slow me down at all hiring her. And yeah, she's so she does 20 hours a week. And anytime we're not super busy with contracts, we have kind of a back burner list that she can work through that she works hours we ask her to, which is 8 to 12 our time. And that's late at night for her. But again, this is Cyberbacker. There's a million. Sphere Rocket's also a super popular one, but it's wonderful. And I know some people have been successful with only having VAs. That's not what I want, because I also love the synergy that it creates. Like, it's a lot less lonely when you have another person who I know, and I know a VA is a person. I'm not saying they're not a person, but like Kim is really in my world. She can laugh. At the end of the weekend, she comes in, yesterday, and she's like, "Oh my God, there's contracts." I'm like, "I know, girl. It was a busy weekend, And I'd like that synergy that we've created. It has kind of created this community that I just didn't have before as a single agent. So I wouldn't want only a VA, because I think you miss some of that. Like relational like synergy that, again, as a I have higher
Keeps the
relational
humor.
needs. So like that's so
Keeps
that's
the
like it's the fun part for me, is having somebody in, but also having a VA do some of the tasks that, again, Kim doesn't have to do.
Libby, so your VA now does all CTC, contract close.
Yeah.
And then just other
Just
sort of
kind of
tasks.
other projects. Like, she will do some of our database management stuff. She will do some graphics. I still run the social media, but every once in a while we'll have her help with something like that. Kim, what other projects do you
Yeah,
get
she,
her?
like, a lot of that Excel
Yeah,
data
like
mining
mailers,
stuff,
kind of
like where I
things.
need you to go through, can you make sure everything has, because our VIP list, like, that's very intensive, so that whatever we can send to her, she can cross out if there's, it makes it a cleaner, so yeah. But she'll do some of the little postcard stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you do an event, you meet new contacts, here, load these into command or whatever.
Yeah, and honestly, I mostly send it to Kim.
Yeah.
And then again, Kim knows I don't care who does it.
Yeah, it depends on whether I would get, because the other thing is you kind of know, like, for example, like the open house or what, there's a little bit of a communicating, this is the open house, like, there's some things that are missed in translation, so sometimes it's just easier for me to do it. But if it's a straight data, Excel, sort, make sure, that kind of thing, that's pretty easy, and she can do it whenever. It doesn't require, like, unless she has a question, like CMAs and market reports, and just making sure everybody's like getting a market report that should be getting one, and orphan buyer, or just those kind of things. Where I
And I
might be
feel
the
like
export
we-
and ask her to look
And
at
we
it.
teach a lot by video, like even like back in, even like, for example, COVID happened. We've only been together for less than a year, working together. And we were kind of working remotely fully, and I was constantly like holding up my phone of like, okay, let me show you how I actually input stuff in FMS in case you ever need to know this. And I'm like holding my phone as I'm showing the screen, here's what I do, and then
Marco Polo is
save
great.
it, look at it later.
Marco Polo is like the thing.
It's an app we use.
Because I can
a lot.
listen, she's
I'm
but
not
it's
holding
not,
my
it's
phone
not-
though, I've got the
but
thing.
she's talking, and then she'll tell me, and I can listen to it again and kind of rewind and then go back and check like whatever it was that,
And
or
it
she
just-
can show me what she's talking about.
And like at this point, I used to be that I couldn't have even imagined Kim writing my offers, but it got to a point where it's like you're showing 5 houses and the offer's due in 3 hours, and I'm still driving, and I'm like, all right. So I realized it was probably sometime last year.
Yeah.
So really, Kim probably writes 90% of my offers now, and I'll just go over the data. And I used to check it before we sent it, but again, she's been doing it enough, and I trust her enough, and I'm like, she knows, and if
I
I
know
miss
what Sherry
something.
wants, I know what Libby wants.
Yeah. Yeah, so and I forget something, she texts me, hey, you forgot when does it expire? Oh, okay, 12 p.m. tomorrow. Like so it's kind of, again, it shifts what you need shifts as your world shifts a little bit. So finding somebody who's like capable enough to just fill in the gaps is.
Just to bring this down a little bit to the average person, right? So you've been in No, I mean, so not everybody is at Libby's,
No,
volume.
not everybody
right?
needs a full-time
So-
admin or even a part-time admin.
But so 3 years ago when you hired Kim, what was your volume?
That year that she joined me, I
Or
closed
units.
39
So
units.
39 units, and what's your goal to fund this year?
65.
65. Okay, so she's gonna do 65 deals. So at 39 deals, right, she brought on a full-time assistant, or
Well,
part-time.
Yeah, but I
to
probably
full-time.
should have.
We should
Again,
have
I
done
under
early.
hire if you're looking at the model, so that's
But
my
if
own
your
scarcity
if your
mindset.
goal is to do,
If you're on pace
15
to
or
do
more,
25,
yeah,
you
you
really
gotta
need to be thinking
gotta
about.
be thinking about, because you're
I
gonna,
would say transaction closing.
oh,
Yeah.
is the first.
Start
transaction
with that.
right away,
Start with that for sure.
right away.
In the very beginning.
And it might be that you're so
Either
happy
way.
with the transaction coordinator, you never need somebody else to take that on, and you just get someone part-time to do the other things, you know? So,
People don't tell you you'll resent your clients if you get too busy.
absolutely.
Because your clients will be like, can I go see this house or whatever it is, and you're just, you get so busy that you'll become to resent your clients, like in
For
20
sure.
or 21, I think I closed 42, now some of those were flips, but I mean, even with the contracts to
It's
close,
crazy,
I
though.
was like to the point where you become resentful of your clients, so I had some decisions to make.
Absolutely. And I think it's also like kind of knowing your own internal things. Like I know for me, I can run really hard, but when I get to a point and I'm driving and I feel like I'm about to cry and I don't know why, I'm like, I'm a little stressed. Something is going on. I need to figure this out, or I need to have a good cry. And I also think even from the very beginning, some leverage that you have is just setting expectations with clients. I have one, like even again, I'm 6.5 years in, and I think that I over communicate. That's kind of part of our thing. And I think I set expectations pretty darn well. But still, you just get extra clients, and it's about knowing how to manage them. We had one this weekend, and for the love of God, we had 40 showings, and I swear that started. It's just our showing started. They would text me 15 minutes after. Hey, how'd it go? Feedback. And I told them probably 7 times. I am going to send you feedback. At the end of the day, every day, I cannot get it to you sooner. I will get you open house feedback sooner because I'm there hosting it. I'm not with that client showing a house. I can't get it to you faster. So I think some of it is setting expectations and not letting your client run you around, right? You have a standard. You're going to stay to your standard. If your client is driving you insane with things that, like you're setting the standard of like, hey, I'm off
They'll
at night.
respect you.
Don't text me at night. And if they're constantly breaking that, then you have a conversation. Maybe this is not a good fit. Maybe how you and I work isn't right. Most of the time they're gonna go, oh no, it's crazy and I love you and I'm so sorry. And if they don't, guess what? Your world might be better if you go, bye. I'm gonna go find another client because you drive me crazy.
But looking back, you can say, oops, I wish I had done that, I wish I had done this earlier. Anything come to mind?
I definitely wish I had hired earlier. I think that it's a very scary proposition, and that's why so many people resist it. But once you start getting leverage and it's the right fit, that's the instant thought is like, oh, why didn't I bring them into my world sooner? It would have made things a lot easier. Again, both for the luxury side, my life quality is better, and also for the ROI side, oh my gosh, I'm actually able to talk with more clients and bring more people on because I'm not going in there and going into command, let me type this up. So Sherry's happy, I love you, Sherry, you're amazing. But again, do I need to be the person doing that every time? I don't. It makes my life better, and I have more time to do the things that only I can do, which is the client-facing stuff.
I have a question. So you mentioned using the DISC profile. What's been the more successful profile for an assistant?
That is a great question. So I'm trying to remember, again, when you take that career visioning, so if you take the career visioning class, one of the things they have you do, Keller Williams used to be only DISC. Now we've established KPA, which is the Keller Personality Assessment. Is that what it stands for? Yeah. So they take this KPA assessment, and you can even take it yourself. If you haven't yet, it's very interesting, and I do think it's helpful to know yourself first. It all begins with self-knowledge, right? Yep. But the KPA essentially is this weird test where you're going to feel very dumb when you take it. Of like, well, I failed that. I'm not a human, I guess. But really, it's going to come out and go, oh my gosh, look, you're a good fit for XYZ. So when you have, when you're hiring, you have them take the KPA, and it'll spit out results, and dang, it's pretty darn accurate of, they'll have the, and it's like a page-long list. Yeah, Melissa can order it for you. So it's like a page-long list, and it'll say, hey, she's a high match for a single agent, which very few people are. It's a high match for a buyer's agent. It's a high match for an administrative assistant. And then you have to verify that. So you have to look through that data and go, okay, so Kim, you would be a great agent. Are you sure you want to do this? Okay, yes, I only want to do this because of this reason. And you're really talking through, because the data doesn't lie, but you also need to know the fuller picture of, okay, well, what do you want to do? So I really rely on that, like, because if they're a very low fit for what you're trying to fit them in, even if they're telling you up and down, no, I want to do it, that's a big risk to take on. And then the disc, I'm trying to even remember what, usually it's more SC that people like for
And I'm a GI.
admin. And I know, so Kim's a little
I don't
quirky,
fit
but
it.
yeah. But she fit it with the KPA. She was still like a medium to high fit, and just we clicked, and I kind of, and with what she wanted in her life, I was like, okay, this sounds like it'll be a good fit, and it was. So I think we tend to gravitate to people that are like us, but you don't always want to hire somebody exactly like you. You need to hire somebody who can fill in your holes. So even though we kind of have similar discs, she has strengths where I have weaknesses.
Yeah, and I benefit from her as well, right? Like it's
Right,
the
she's a little
control part.
perfectionist, I'm very much not.
Yeah, so like she's like done is better than perfect. I'm like, what? Is that
Yeah,
possible?
like, we gotta go, we don't have time to make it perfect,
So
let's
I've
do it.
learned a lot from her as well. So it's like a synergy of, you know, don't let the disc result keep you from
I
like
am.
looking deeper into somebody.
I absolutely am.
And career visioning is being taught
In a couple weeks, right? Yeah, that's what I was.
Third and fourth.
And if you haven't taken that, do it. If you've taken career visioning, the 30/60/90 is also super helpful. It's like the second class.
It's the second day
Yeah.
of this, it's being taught here also, which is so cool for your pocketbook.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely great. I've taken them both and refer to the notes still, so that's awesome.
So real fast, those of you who don't know Libby, she is, I just said it out loud to the three of us. She is ready, shoot, aim. We've been masterminding for 4 years together. I think it is a little over 4. And I remember one of our first ones, I wanted to do a client event. And the next month they came back to discuss it, she'd already done one. She didn't do it right, she just did one. And so to watch you grow, what you've done is you have.
Yeah, that's exactly
what?
right. She didn't do it wrong.
I didn't do it wrong either, 'cause
She did one. She did one, therefore she did it right. And so when Kim came along, all the things she had in her mind that she was implementing got better and at a higher level. So doing them at all is the first goal.
Right.
Doing them at the higher levels, what Kim was able to make you do, and you just jumped into a different
And I think
sphere.
the same is true with social media. It's like, do you really think your best use of your time in the middle of the day is spend an hour and a half creating this perfect infographic or whatever that most people aren't even gonna look at? No, make your dang calls, get in front of your clients, do the other stuff at night, and make social media good enough. Like, or hire it out when you're ready. You know, it's like, but you just have to, you can't, I think it's very easy to be busy in our business and you're not creating more business for yourself. Like
Busy
you're
work.
not doing.
You're doing busy work.
Libby, I think that is that key about, don't confuse activity with productivity.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Because, I mean, all of us have done it like, I was so busy today, but I didn't do jack.
Right.
And I think that's the other thing too, is tracking. So I'm very much a proponent of coaching. And if you are not being coached, you should consider getting a coach. And if your coach is not having you track your activities, you don't have the clarity. You think you're real busy, but really you're not creating one more business. And it comes to that daily tracking where it's like, I know how many contacts I'm making, and I know what kind and quality of contacts I'm making. I know that I'm doing the door knocking. I know that I'm hosting the open houses. The business just comes when you're doing the right activities. And when you have leverage in your world, it's easier to do the right activities because you can take some of those things that aren't gonna get you business and give it to somebody else.
That's what the impressive part is about Libby. When I saw that yesterday, that she was going and knocking on doors. I was in their office yesterday morning and we were talking about, the market and whatnot, and they got the deal in and everything, and there she is that same afternoon out there. And people are like, well, how does she do 65 deals? And how does she do this? It's not luck. She kept saying it. She's getting all this leverage, and the main thing that you hear from all these top producers is, so I have time to do the face-to-face, the touches and the lead gen.
Right.
That's it.
That's the plate you can't drop. You can drop a lot of them and they bounce, but that one will shatter if you just.
And find somebody that'll keep you in the front, right? Like, I'm the behind the scenes. And then it's all, I keep her in the front, right? Like, she's the one that everybody sees, and I just kind of, she knows her why, she knows how she wants to be, she knows how our clients need to be serviced, and I facilitate that even further, even if I'm the one in her email.
You're
And I
Beyonce,
also-
she's your choreographer.
Yeah, exactly.
choreographer.
I'm her backup dancer.
And I also think that it's my opinion that your admin, while I'm not saying that Kim can't hold me accountable, I really think that is the role of the coach. It's not necessarily fair to have your admin, who you're paying her bills, be the one saying, have you made your calls? It's like, is that really her job, right? Like, I think that's, you need to be the one that's driving that ship, and if you need accountability, you go and you find it. You get a mastermind and you get a coach, and you start tracking. And I'm not saying she can't help, but that's not fair to pin totally on your admin.
Just create your calendar for the year, and then they can support that calendar. Like, when we do our vision in October for the next year, it's like, okay, these are the things that we have coming up, we're still doing this, like, let's keep, and what about this, like, that kind of accountability, but not your personal.
So Lydia, I can't let you get off, so is your business up right now, is it down, and how do you see the market right now? The rest of it, what are you seeing out there?
It's a crazy spring.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this weekend we lost more than we won. I think we had one deal fall through and 4 offers that were not accepted, and for the one offer that was and got multiple. So it's not last year, but some houses are similar to last year, where it's super competitive and it's tough out there. So it takes you gotta pay attention and put your finger on the pulse to every individual house. You know, I think both with your listings and with buyers, you kind of have to have the conversations, figure out what's going on to really serve them well.
Is this gonna be your best year ever?
Yeah.
I think so. We're on pace to make it our best year.
Why is that so? A lot of people are thinking, and I saw a post last weekend where they said the sky was falling. Agent said the sky was falling.
I mean, I'm consistently, I know that we're on pace because our numbers, you know, and I'm not just looking at our closings because we did not have a great start to the year. As January, February were pretty bleak. But I mean, I think I've had 5 buyer consults in March, and I've got another one this afternoon, and I'm down on my listing appointments, but I know my numbers. I know what I need to hit, you know, so.
And she's been pushing in her pipeline consistently. It doesn't really, the January, February may not show, but
Right.
she hasn't slowed down
I got
in
back
her
from maternity
action.
leave in October, and it was go, and then the business caught up.
So it's all in there. It's just waiting to come to fruition.
It's the best year ever.
I think best year ever.
Like, please, how do you manage being a mom, a wife, and a full-time worker? How do you manage all that?
I mean, it's an SHIT show some days. It absolutely is, and I'm not gonna lie and tell you it's easy, but I do think that again, it's about being clear in, this is how I wanna show up in my world. This is how I wanna show up for my clients, this is how I wanna show up for my kids. Something Courtney Newton actually shared with me this week that I thought was so cool for anybody else who's a mom, is there was a study done, don't ask me who it was, but they basically said that there are 15 minutes every day that matter the most to your kids. And it's the first 5 minutes when they wake up. If you can be really present in that morning time when they're waking up and they're getting ready for school, it's the first 5 minutes when they get home. So I do try, my kids don't ride the bus every day, but I try to be home when I can for the bus, or I try to pick them up from the ASP the days they are, and engage with them and, you know, do that. And then the last 5 minutes before they go to bed. So if you can just show up, and I'm not saying that's the only time I get with my kids, but what I've learned from being a mom now for 9 years is you're in our heads, sometimes we think, oh my gosh, I wasn't present, I had to take this phone call, I had to do these emails, and it's like, but if you just carve out 5 minutes in the middle and go, hey, in 5 minutes, why don't we go jump on a trampoline for a few minutes? Or let's go play Uno. They remember that and are so excited, and they don't think, oh, mom was working all night, when really, I was working before and after that. But, you know, it's like if you show up in bursts of moments that are meaningful, that's doing a great job. So yeah, I'm like, I think it's a hard juggle, but you can do it. And I really think it's figuring out what life do you want, how do you want to show up for your clients, and then what's the path to get there, you know? Because again, I do think it takes leverage in order to do that. Like Kim knows there's times when I'm like, hey, I would do this, but I'm heading to the doctor, can you take care of it? She's like, yep, I'm on it. I'm like, great. And there's other times where it's like my showing assistant's license lapsed, and oh my gosh, I guess I'm showing houses this weekend, sorry fam, you know, and it's like, it is what it is, and they know, and they're like, it's a season, and it's given us this life, and it is what it is, you know?
And they witness her efforts too, which I think is great, like the young children.
Yeah, and my kids come with me to showings, they come with me to closings, they, you know, like they know the ups and the downs, so, yeah. But it is hard to manage it all. I will not lie and say that it's easy, but if you want to, there's a way to do it. You just have to figure out what it should look like.
Any other questions?
You're a rock star.
Oh, thank you. I've learned so much from all y'all.
I always remember my favorite meeting quote, and she hates when I remind her. She said here one day, and she said, the difference between me and you is, I'm going to do the activity you're not going to do. And is that true?
Absolutely.
And I mean, you got this great talent, this I mean, like amazing talent. The difference between us and other people is that we're willing to do the activities that people aren't willing to do. Because she's not saying, oh my God, the market, oh my God, the rate direction. She's out there making it happen. Have to take more work right now?
Yeah, it does.
Take more work right now. Take more work right now?
Double down.
It's harder.
It's hard right now.
It's harder, but I'm still working every day, and I'm still, bringing home the bacon. I mean, you can do it. You can do it all. And if you stick to that 5, 5, and 5, that is so cool. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Hey, Jim, can I read a quote I just got in an email?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead, please read.
This guy says, yes, I know that your feelings are real. I just don't remember the last time the feelings put food on the table.
Maybe for a therapist.
Yeah, please do.
How did he live in the
Oh,